This is who I am. I'm a human being. Things like countries, races, genders, these are all made up constructs. And there's not going to be a world that works where a human being can be transformed simply by labeling them, to differentiate them in a way that dehumanizes. It's unacceptable and it doesn't work. We're suffering through a gray period where we're on the verge of either transforming into human beings or being a fossil record. We can't continue to live in ignorance towards the imbalances that defy nature. That nature has all the answers for us, that the king of the jungle, the lion, has not proliferated because it can't in order to survive. It must preserve the balance. You see, it's not that it's the best predator that made it the king of the jungle. It's that it's profoundly related to the reality, the necessity for the survival of the gazelles. That it preys upon the weak ones, strengthening the genome, ensuring the survival in a partnership. And its reproductive rates, its predatory drives are tampered to maintain the perfect numerical order. That ecosystems are gentlemen agreements, and the animals can sleep at night. And there's a reason why taking your shoes off and being in nature, a nature that humanity says is dangerous, when the truth of the matter is, if I go walking around in the woods where there's been 7 confirmed bear attacks in 100 years, I'm most likely to be shot by a human being who just wants to hunt something maybe a little more interesting than an innocent animal for fun. Where human beings hunting for fun is an abomination of nature that was never part of any civilization that had any balance. And the psychopathy of this manifest destiny that eradicated human beings that had developed a balance with nature, a peacefulness, a wisdom, where life is the real gem, where we were given everything we needed. And here, I live in a world of more and more and more, where you can't satisfy the human appetite for more with this psychopathies of narcissism that is running humanity into the ground. Where we thought the world would be safer with nuclear weapons, handed over to psychopaths as they mow down people to put their name in the history books. And the history that I'm most concerned with are the fossil records of the 99.9% of species that are no longer here. That the rules of nature cannot be defined by our desires. That we don't need fusion to make energy. We can use algae to make all the oxygen and sugar needed to ferment to make alcohol, using sewage, making every single electron come from the sun, where solar power can power additional lights to increase the photosynthesis of algae that grows based on the capturing of human sewage, where we could recycle all food waste and ferment into more alcohol, where alcohol turbines can replace the coal burners and capture the mechanical energy of alcohol before using the exhaust to run the burners, and therefore coal power plants would have their power output amplified, but the pollution be nothing. Carbon dioxide in water, and the carbon dioxide goes back to the algae. And the photosynthetic rate of algae cannot be exceeded by any other organism because it's a 3-dimensional microorganism with only a phospholipid bilayer where it can just absorb nutrients at the rate at which the light causes photosynthesis. And its main energy comes from the sun and carbon dioxide, which is our primary greenhouse gas. Algae already produces 70% of all of our oxygen. And the limitation of the ocean is its nutrient density of salt water, which we could augment the nutrient density with the sewage, increasing the rate of growth. And then the other limitation is the light penetration to a certain depth, but a tank with 24/7 lights that hit every vector, including vertical posts, would make the tank grow infinitely. And then aerating it with atmospheric air using computer-controlled air pumps and computers that control the light and oxygen sensors which detect the photosynthetic rate, we can maximize it. We can make an ecosystem. And so now all vehicles run on clean alcohol. Alcohol is so clean because it's a natural biological molecule that when it's burned, it produces water and carbon dioxide, and you could drink the fuel that goes into your car and power plants. You can party. And so we wouldn't even have smog because we would just return balance, where we right now burn toxic chemicals and look at all the refining capacity required. But we already have the infrastructure because every single sewer line has to go to water treatment, but water treatment can all be converted to alcohol factories. I even have an invention in my head to create an ecosystem where I combine algae and yeast, and then I control the flow rate of the liquid substrate for the phosphorus and nitrogen, and I could use a light sensor that detects the formation of algae, detecting the green, in a longitudinal plane, and I could have a tank that slowly feeds water, and the computer controls the feeding of the water, the light, and the aeration to maximize photosynthesis, and has alcohol sensors that detect the yeast transforming the sugar. As the algae moves, it's an assembly line. And at the end, you have a centrifuge that segregates the biomass so the algae can go be processed for biodiesel and lubricants and even bioplastics, replacing everything that comes from petroleum. Get rid of the plastic, clean up the oceans, and then not have any offshore drilling. And then it's a tank. And so using artificial intelligence, we can literally use solar panels to embed more light and create an artificial ecosystem that uses sewage. And we can capture all food waste and ferment that to make more energy. And we can literally just be distilling alcohol, which we've done for centuries. And it's clean with no biological ramifications. And we can clean up what we put in our toilets and stuff because it's cellulose. And then fecal matter and urine is the food for algae. And the yeast eats the sugar from the algae. And we recycle the biomass to capture the other things to make plastics and biodiesel. And it's free, clean energy forever that grows with our population. We don't have to worry about petroleum going away anymore. And every single car is now a solar car, and every single house is solar powered. And we recycle responsibly because it's easy and cheap. And now we get rid of OPEC. Now we don't need offshore drilling. There's no oil spills. There's no environmental hazards. There's no crazy refineries. There's no nuclear explosions. There's no Chernobyls. We need to rip a wormhole trying to do something dangerous like fusion, like the sun. It's absurd. When we have to have a biological balance. It's the only way. That energy produced has to have a biological origin and balance, because if we burn petroleum, it has no biological origin, and we're cutting down the trees. But you see, the biomass potential of algae, we use corn right now to make ethanol-based fuels for cars, but that has a huge agricultural impact, and the time it takes to grow an ear of corn, you can grow algae overnight, 1 to 10 day life cycles, and fermenting with the yeast. I mean, there's so many things, and I'm not even a biologist, but perhaps maybe my ecosystem doesn't work, but then we just eliminate the yeast and ferment it separately, but we could just be pumping alcohol to power plants. And now we don't have to worry about our populations because, we have restored environmental balance. And that's true, and it's easy, and it's cheap, it's free. We already have to process sewage, and we pump it to the ocean, we create unnatural bacteria and make it dangerous, but we don't need to. We could use biology to recycle human waste in the natural order of things and capture the energy from it. It's really simple. It's easy and free. What does it take to grow algae? What does it take to grow yeast? Just sprinkle it in there and watch it do its thing. And it's over with. Global warming done. Free energy, let's go.